there and I put a bunch of Neosporin on that child's head, and I laid hands on that baby, and there is no amount of Neosporin that did what happened to that baby's head by the next morning. So we went to the hospital, and I'd already found out this is what the price was supposed to be. And I was praying all the way there. I thought, Lord, don't let them try to charge me too much. I don't want to argue with this woman at the counter, and just really praying that God would be over that whole situation. So we take her inside. Those are some things that the ladies have made. So I take her inside, and I go up front, and I pay for her. Well, Rita does not speak English. So the whole entire way to the clinic, she was sitting in the front with the man, the driver, and they were talking. So we pay, we go, I leave Rita there with money to get home. We get back in the car, and the man says, "Did you know that lady?" And I said, "Well, I kind of know her, but I don't know that lady." And then the man says, "She was a Muslim." I said, "That's all right. God loves a Muslim." He says, No. She was a Muslim." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "She told me that 3 weeks ago, 1 week before I had arrived there, her and her husband had found Christ. And she told him that her entire life she had been Muslim and not one good thing had ever happened to her. And that she just found Christ, and he already sent me there to save her baby because her baby was going to die." So Rita gets me every time. Before I left, God told me to give her all this stuff that I had. That honestly, most of it, I thought, when people gave it to me and they're like, "Here, I think you should take this to Uganda," I wanted to say, "Are you kidding me? Like, my luggage is already full and now I'm paying to take this weird thing, whatever." But when God showed me it was all Rita's stuff, it all makes sense. So I took all this stuff over her house, and I left. 5 months later, God brought me back there. When I got there, the village was different. There was an atmosphere there that was joyful, peaceful, and completely unlike it had been before. So through my trip, I asked Rita, I said, "What's happened here?" And Rita said, "Well, all those women, all the other women in the village kept coming to me and saying, 'Why did that Mzungu,' which means white person." It actually means, it's a Kenyan term that means confused, wanderer, because I guess when we got to Africa, we walked around like this. So she said, "Well, everybody was like, 'Why did that woman help you?' And she said, 'She didn't help me. I found Jesus, and Jesus helped me.'" So then she says, "But none of the other women knew Jesus either." So she told the entire village about Christ, and this woman who'd been a Christian for like 2 months led the entire village of Muslims to Christ. So they then just changed the way they were living. They were actually building a community outhouse, which was a big deal after being there for a month and seeing how things were before that. They were building a huge community outhouse that had like 5 stalls. They were helping one family to make bricks and build a legitimate home. This is Fabian. He's teaching some of the kids there worship songs. So since then, the second time, when I went back again, I met a woman named Justine. Justine didn't come around the first time that I was there because Justine thought, since I was hanging out with all these Muslims, that I must be a Muslim. So Justine had been a Christian for many, many years. The rest of the village shunned her. They ignored her. They actually tried to drive her away many times, but she had known Christ for a long, long time. Justine then started helping the other women learn about Christ, and she was teaching Bible studies. So all these women who had ostracized this woman realized she's known the truth all this time, and they started coming to her for advice and knowledge. Well, through this, Justine realized that, like her, these women were widows, and some of the women were actually, they had been married to witch doctors. And in their culture, if you are married to a witch doctor and you become a Christian, he has the right to sacrifice you. So luckily, these women, their husbands just abandoned them and their children. So the majority of the women, they are widows, but they needed an income. And Justine realized this. And so she decided, how can we help these women to come together and make an income? So they started making, sorry, wasn't prepared, paper beads. So a lot of you have probably seen these. They're just little strips of paper. So they got one of these necklaces. They figured out how to take it apart and how to cut the little triangles and roll them up and dip them in a clear varnish and make paper beads. So they were making something. They weren't making very much money, but they were making something. So then one of the times that I was there, my husband said, oh, we should get them a sewing machine. My husband he's really good at sewing. He had 5 older sisters. They messed him up just right for me. So my husband can sew, and he said we should buy them a sewing machine. They still today make the old pump singers in third world countries because electricity is an issue. So they started making like reusable shopping bags, just something simple. They didn't know how to use a sewing machine when they got that sewing machine. They looked at me and they said, we don't know how to use this, but we will learn because God has given it to us. Since then, they now have 10 sewing machines. Another organization there found out about what they were doing and bought them 7 more. We have actually purchased them 3. Like they made this hat. You know, like they're getting a lot more skilled at the things that they are creating. So as other women have joined them, they have learned to make other things. So they weave baskets. They actually made this really pretty purse. It's got wooden beads that are all hand painted. So they're doing things so that they can have businesses to support themselves. My goal is not to support these people. That is not going to help anyone. So my goal is to help them get the need, you know, what they need to make the small business, whether it be a sewing machine or a bicycle. A bicycle there can be a transportation business, you know, a small motorcycle is a taxi. So our entire ministry on this side is my mom, myself, my husband, and another American couple. And they have actually traveled to Uganda several times also. And so there has never been a huge organization or a church that has done this. These are just people we met. And through the years, what has happened has become a ministry. So Justine actually runs the ministry in Uganda. We now have about 85 women in our working group. We also have started 2 schools. Both of our schools, so our schools are about 2 hours apart from each other. Where the main women's working group is, that's where our largest school is. Our school does not charge a specific fee. It is pay what you can. So a lot of people there, they can't afford to send their kids to school because the school fees are high enough that they just can't afford it. So what we do is say, pay what you can. That way, these children who wouldn't have an opportunity to go to school now have an opportunity to get an education. Our schools are Christian schools. They do learn English to help them better their future, and we do teach them about Christ. One of our schools, which is out by our farm, out by the farm, almost every single person who lives out there is Muslim or else they are into witchcraft. They do know that our school is Christian, but these parents come to us and they say, we know that you have a Christian school, but can our kids go to your school? Yes, we will cover your kids with Christ all day long and send them back into your home. So these little kids are getting saved and learning about Jesus, and they're going home and affecting their families. So we actually have the only church in that area, Bawamba. It's very small. We've started a farm there. We have 6 acres of land. 3 of the acres we are currently farming. We do raise a couple goats. We have a cow. Our cow just went and saw her boyfriend, so now we have some pigs. The oldest litter of pigs is almost big enough to sell. At that point, the farm will be self-sustaining. Right now, we're spending money to feed all the animals. We just recently built a septic tank latrine out at the farm, which is a big deal because without a septic tank, we are polluting our groundwater where we're attempting to grow crops. So we will be starting a produce stand out on the road in front of our farm. We currently have 3 houses that have been built on the farm. One of the houses at this moment is being used as a meeting center. Women in that community are finding Christ and they're coming to meet there and have weekly Bible studies. So this is our 3 houses. So this house, one of these houses is actually named after me, but I did not ask them to name the house after me. But Agnes and Evis live in these 2, and then this side is actually the biggest, and it is where we're having a church. It is the only Christian church in all of Toowoomba. We recently had a lady named Beatrice. She's in her late 80s, and Beatrice's family decided they were tired of taking care of her. So they rented her a small room and left her there. One of the gentlemen who teaches the school, this is our school in Toowoomba, the gentleman who teaches the school there lived next to this lady, Beatrice, and he said, hey, I think I know some women who could help you. So he reached out to Justine and he said, this is Beatrice, could you come and talk to her? So Justine went and visited with her and found her out about her situation. She had actually survived the genocide in Rwanda. She had 10 children, only 2 of them and herself made it out of Rwanda alive. And so she had escaped to Uganda. Her grandson had decided he was tired of her living in his house, which was actually her home, but he cast her out. So we found out about her. We now take care of her. She will be taken care of for the rest of her life. Honestly, she doesn't need to be working in her late 80s. So she does come to the farm and sit and, talk to the other women, but she's not working, but she will be taken care of for the rest of her life. So Justine was at her house, cleaning up her house, meeting with Beatrice, and a councilman from that area came, and he said, what are you doing here? And Justine said, well, we're going to help this woman. And he said, well, she's not Christian, right? And Justine said, well, that's okay. Christ loves her. And Justine started to say something about Christ to this man, and he says, you don't need to tell me about Jesus. And Justine thought, she'd upset him or whatever. He said, because I see what you are doing is love. And so since then, that man has actually gotten saved. Beatrice has found the Lord, and now that man is attending in Toowoomba. So we do hope to build a bigger kind of outdoor covered area to use as our church there in the future. There's one of our little goats. We are looking to expand that. But like I said, the farm is so close to being able to support itself and actually support our ministry. From there, other businesses will be starting. So what's next? So for me, what's next is I have recently, my husband and I, partnered with another couple that we know that live in Dominican Republic, full-time on the ground. A lot of people don't realize what is going on in the Dominican Republic. So the Dominican Republic brings in 10 billion, with a B, 10 billion American dollars in sex tourism a year. So unfortunately, women there are taught that their worth is in prostitution. Many men